Hi once again in putting the final piece into the puzzle that we've been trying to crack for so long. This is possibly the last in the series of YouTubes that I've done because I think we have nailed the final pieces of the puzzle. So let's get started. To understand the present, we must look to the past and see what happened back in 1302, and that Pope Boniface issued his infamous papal bull Unum Sanctum. This was the first express trust. He claimed control over the whole planet, which made him king of the world. That's pretty big of him, isn't it? The first crown of crown land. Pope Boniface VIII was the first leader in history to create the concept of a trust. But the first testamentary trust through a deed and will creating a deceased estate, these are all things we've talked about, was created by Pope Nicholas V in 1455 through the papal bull Romanus Pontifex. This is only one of 3 papal bulls to include the line with the incipit for a perpetual remembrance. This bull had the effect of conveying the right of use of the land as real property from the express trust Unum Sanctum to the control of the pontiff and his successors in perpetuity. Hence, all land is claimed as crown land. This first crown is represented by the first Sedicae Vi Trust. Now, we've covered those things. Created when a child is born. It deprives us of all the beneficial entitlements and rights on the land. The second crown of the Commonwealth was created in 1481 with the papal bull Aeterni Regis, meaning eternal crown, by Sixtus IV, being only the second of 3 papal bulls as deeds of testamentary trusts. This papal bull created the Crown of Aragon, later known as the Crown of Spain, and is the highest sovereign and highest steward of all Roman slaves, subject to the rule of the Roman pontiff. Spain lost the crown in 1604 when it was granted to King James I of England by Pope Paul V after the successful passage of the bill they put through Parliament called the Union of Crowns or Commonwealth in 1605. And how they got that through was a false flag operation with the gunpowder plot, poor old Guy Fawkes. The crown was finally lost by England in 1975 when it was returned to Spain and King Carlos I, where it remains to this day. This second crown is represented by the second Sedicae Vi Trust, created when a child is born, and by the sale of the birth certificate as a bond to the private central bank of the nation, depriving us of ownership of our flesh and condemning us to perpetual servitude as a Roman person or slave. Okay, so this is where it all came from. So now that we understand the past, the third crown of ecclesiastical see, the third crown was created in 1537 by Paul III through the papal bull Convocation, also meant to open the Council of Trent. It is the third and final testamentary deed and will of a testamentary trust set up for the claiming of all lost souls, lost to the sea. Now they changed that lost to the SEA, sea as well, because they also gave us maritime law. The Venetians assisted in the creation of the first Sedicae Vi Act of 1540 to use this papal bull as the basis of ecclesiastical authority of Henry VIII. This crown was secretly granted to England in the collection and reaping of lost souls. Interesting, is it? So let's look at how we became ensnared in this system. And they do it through the Births, Deaths and Marriages and Relationships Registration Act here in New Zealand, and that was in 1995. Part 2, births in New Zealand to be notified and registered. Every birth in New Zealand shall be notified and registered in accordance with this part. So, as a parent, you believe that you are supposed to register the child that was born. And we were born, not birthed. And it doesn't matter where you look, you will not find born in any legal dictionary. But by registering a birth, we registered a dead child. Let's have a look at once again, at the Birth, Deaths and Marriages and Relationship Registration Act 1995. And there it is in the interpretation. In this act, unless the context otherwise requires, birth includes a stillbirth, but does not include a miscarriage. Okay? Now, inclusio exclusio, the maxim at law says the inclusion of one excludes all else. So birth includes a stillbirth means a stillbirth is the only thing that is a birth. So our father filled out the form and lodged this with the registrar at births, deaths and marriages. Now this is the source document, or the first part of the Trinity. So let's get this very, very clear. The form that births, deaths and marriages gave to your father to fill out to register the birth or to register the dead child, this is the first document or the source document and the first part of the Holy Trinity, which is the Father. Births, deaths and marriages will give you a printout of what the registrar entered into his register. What they do is they take a photocopy of it and you get your printout online. You can get your printouts and your birth certificates. You have a bit more fun getting your source document though, but you have to ring up and ask for the form for the source document. They keep it pretty well hidden. Okay, now this is the second part of the Trinity. The printout is the second part of the Trinity, and this is the Son. So now we have the Father and the Son. And this is the part, the next part is the part that we were missing. The parents receive a birth certificate, which is a receipt for the trust set up for the child. This is the third part of the Trinity, the Holy Ghost. Okay, so now we have the three parts, the Father, the Son, and the Holy Ghost. Now the first document, the source document, was the part that we were missing. We now have the three, and so we have the Holy Trinity. So we have the Father, the Son, and the Holy Ghost. The Bible says you cannot come to the Father unless you come through the Son. So by using your birth certificate, you're not going to get back to the promised land, or you're not going to enter the kingdom of heaven by using the birth certificate, because that is the straw man, the Holy Ghost. You have to come through the Son. The Son goes to Father by using the source document, not the birth certificate. That was the missing link. So you're getting it all now. And how we do it now, if you go back to my other video, which I've just uploaded because Vinnie Eastwood's site got taken down, and so I've now put I Declare I Am Free on my own YouTube channel. So if you go and look at that first, you'll get a much clearer indication of the process. But this is just the final bits that I'm telling you. So how we're going to go about it is we're going to go through Section 77 of the Trustees Act. And this is what it says. Trustees, or the majority of trustees, having in their hands, now I'm only going to read the bits that are pertinent, having in their hands securities belonging to a trust, on filing in the court nearest to which they are, an affidavit describing the instrument creating the trust. Right, we know that was the source document now, not the birth certificate. That's where we got it wrong. And giving particulars of the person beneficially entitled under the trust. Who do you think that would be? That's the Son. And on serving a copy of the affidavit on the secretary to the Treasury, pay the money or transfer the securities. Okay, so you can freeze this and read the rest yourself, but that is how simple it is. So let's move along. Now, once we've lodged that with the court, they are going to give us a declaratory judgment. Okay, now a declaratory judgment will never show on the record because it's merely an oral judgment, so it never shows on the record. And the reason they do this is so that no one can go and search it and find it and everyone get out of the system. So the Declaratory Judgments Act 1908 describes it. No action or proceeding in the High Court shall be open to objection on the ground that a merely declaratory judgment or order is sought thereby, and the said court may make binding declarations of right. So if you're going in asking for one of your rights to be restored, they grant it as long as you have done the homework. So let's have a look at what we need to do. You need to issue a notice of the chronological order of how it all began. So apart from your affidavit, you need to show what happened. So on the whatever day you were born of March and whatever year, a child was born at, and you name the hospital, and it could be downtown Auckland or wherever, to Jane Doe. Now you must put the wife's previous name, and the father, John Henry Doe. The child was born in the delivery room and then transferred to the ward. As a ward of the state, the child was put into guardianship until the age of 18. The newborn child. Okay, now this is the form that your dad filled out. So you need to take the number off your source document form and put it in there. Was given the names John Henry. The father soon thereafter registered the event with births, deaths and marriages by filling out the required form. The father, John Henry Doe, did not read the Act clearly, as the Act clearly asked to register births. As his child was born, there is no need or requirement to register the newborn child. We have obtained a copy of the form number filled out by the father and registered with births, deaths and marriages, which is called the source document. So you put that in there, and you include that form when you lodge your affidavit. Now, I've only given you a few here. There are a few more that you can put up there. What happened after that? You can show what the printout does. You can show what the birth certificate does. Fill them out yourselves and lodge them in the court nearest to you. Okay, the source document started a series of events created by the father, once again not reading the instructions clearly, by entering the child's given names in a column which read, if stillborn, to be noted in this column. So you can see he's made quite a few mistakes. Birth in the Births, Deaths and Marriages and Relationships Registration Act 1995 is defined. Birth includes a stillbirth but does not include a miscarriage. Okay, so we've covered that before. Add a bit more to this and away you go. Now, there are a couple of little tricks that you need to know. The birth certificate is the public side of the ledger, and statute is the public side. Now they keep inviting us into the public, and we keep using our birth certificate and all our identifications, which are in the public side. So we're at disharmony with the system by staying in the public. We're supposed to be in the private. The source document is the private side, so if you use that for identification, you're going to be private, and the Bible is private. So those are the keys to staying in the private, because every time you go into the public, you're at war with the system, and it's going to cost you money. Good luck out there.